you first.
We good to go, Mr. Hood?
I believe it's going. I'm going to just verify, but go ahead and record. Go ahead.
Well, good afternoon. It is Monday, April 1st, 2019. It's the time and place for the regular meeting of the Transportation Commission. First item of business, I'll call roll. David Ballard, here. David McKinney.
Here.
Ryan Lancaster.
Here.
Ryan Hall.
Here.
Tracy Hopkins.
Here.
Stephen Lewis.
Here.
Ryan Leslie.
Here.
Tricia Matthews had sent a note that she's coming down with a bug and would be absent. Michael Vennard.
Here.
Luke Kavanagh. Absent. Sean Martin.
See him on his way in, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Tony Tisdale.
Here.
Good afternoon. Miranda Carson. Absent. Brian Parker.
Here.
Parker. Justin Price.
Here.
And you are,
ITD, Transportation Department.
but you don't look like Justin Price.
I don't?
Or, excuse me,
Good for me. I hope I look better.
am I confusing you, sir?
Possibly.
Your name is?
Justin Price,
Oh.
I'm the traffic manager.
My apologies.
Not a problem.
Okay, all right. I take my shoe out and continue.
What is
All
that
right,
first
all right,
after?
Mr. Price, thank you.
Just trying to think of another name to go by.
Okay. Mr. Martin is here, okay. Second item is the adoption of the agenda. Any changes, comments? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the agenda.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Third item is the approval of minutes from the March 4th meeting. Mr. Lewis, did you pick up any corrections?
I had no corrections, Mr. Chairman.
I saw none either, but anyone else? Call for a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the minutes from the March 4th meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Lancaster. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. McKinney. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 3, approval of the minutes. Item 4, old business, transportation projects update. Mr. Hood?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So beginning on page 11 of the packet. And I did, will note just for the record, so I will attach the PDF going forward. I did get some positive comments on having that version, so it makes it easier to print. I apologize for the item sheets and some of the other kind of filler paperwork, but I'll at least make it one PDF. That way you can just open that up and print it. But in the version you have, page 11 of 30, transportation projects updates. Again, not a whole lot of things to update you on this month either. Just some updates on the Linder Road, Ustick to McMillan project on page 12. There's some road closures. That's actually 2-mile segments there. So north of Ustick all the way to Chinden. That project will be ongoing through this fall, or into this fall anyways. So you can go to the project website and look for any detours or lane closures over the next several months. Can't remember if I mentioned it last month. I must not have, but the next project down, 10-mile McMillan to Chinden. Costco is looking to advance that project. Do have some concerns about having the Linder Road corridor under construction at the same time. The 10-mile would be under construction, so having a detour route be under construction isn't usually a good idea. But Costco's antsy to get going on making some of those improvements. So I don't have much of an update over the past couple of weeks. but it's my understanding they are talking with ACHD about finishing up that design and then getting it to bid, so they can start that project sooner. And I don't see too much other bold, and I didn't make really any notes in the packet. So just check the last page real quick. We'll talk about transit here a little bit. That's kind of our main topic for later on this afternoon. Shared vehicles, I will also just highlight that again since we've been talking about that for several months now. There is an RFP that's on the street now. Proposals are due this Friday, April 5th. So if you want to look at that RFP, there's a link in your packet to check that as well. And then just to circle back on the priorities that we discussed for a couple of different meetings, I highlighted the changes that council made to your all recommendations for roadways and intersections and then community programs projects. Just a couple of changes, a few changes. So it was largely the way you recommended it to them, but there were some of those couple few changes, there were some sub changes. I want to just close the loop with you all on that. And then maybe an update. This has been under future business items for some time now, probably 6 months or maybe even longer. But the Linder Village project, so that's on Chinden as well at Linder Road on the southeast corner. The council did approve that. It was, there were 2 requests actually to reconsider that action, but they were both recently denied. So I did just attach the circulation plan that they submitted, showing both pedestrian connections as well as roadway connections and drive aisles. It's not the cleanest of exhibits, but I think you kind of get the idea of what is being proposed and essentially what was approved by council for that intersection. So I don't know if we want to spend any time, Mr. Chair, talking about that at all. We did talk about it probably a year ago for just a little bit and kind of what the commission's purview was in that development review process. And just to reiterate, you really don't have any. And it was recommended that you kind of just wait until the process was done, and then you could certainly, be made aware of what's going on. But Planning and Zoning Commission or the City Council really rely on you to do any analysis and make a recommendation on transportation elements. But you were approached by Sally Reynolds, again, probably about a year ago or so, about some of the connections into Paramount. And again, you can kind of see how those roadways then are being extended from Paramount into this proposed project. So, again, with that, Mr. Chair, I would stand for any questions you may have, or again, if you want to talk about that project anymore, or anything else in the memo for that matter.
Any questions, comments, points to discuss with Mr. Hood?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Leslie?
Caleb, you were going to circle back with us on that, that pathway connection up on McMillan between Red Horse and whatever that subdivision is there. They were supposed to finish it last year, and it's still dirt.
Great. So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Leslie, I actually drove by there too and confirmed what you had told me, that it is just compacted gravel, basically not paved. What I haven't done is circle back with Parks yet, so I still have that note. They've mentioned to me that it's complete, but I don't know if that's as complete as it's going to get, because it's not paved, like you said. So I don't know if that's what the grant was for. I don't know why they would apply for the grant to not have it be paved. So I will still do that. I still have the note to do that. I just haven't confirmed with either Kim Warren or Mike Barton in Parks that something is still happening. But it's my understanding that project's closed, but I don't understand it either, how it can be when it's not asphalt. So yeah, still hold tight on that, and I will provide that update once I get it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Hood? Okay, item 4A, thank you, Mr. Hood. Old business transportation projects, 4A is completed. 5, new business items. A, Police Department status update. Sergeant Arnold sent a notice that he would be unable to attend today and said he'd see us in May. Item 5A is closed. Item 5B, 2020 fixed route transit planning. Mr. Parker, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
What do you have for us today, sir?
Just a quick little update on our progress towards providing service in Meridian and kind of a little schedule of where we're at and where we're going soon. So we had a council meeting on the 11th of March, just information item, discussing it with them. They're generally supportive of us going out to the public and discussing what the city would like to see as far as service. They want to see us pursuing federal fundings to provide a match and leverage their investment a little further. Wanted us to coordinate a little bit with neighboring cities, the city of Boise specifically, and CWI, and see if we can improve some connections east and west with them. And then suggested, as we have been discussing, to partner with some private sector businesses to hopefully, again, leverage the city's investment a little further by maybe getting them to pitch in a little bit, specifically St. Luke's, Sensi, a few of the large businesses in the Pine, Eagle, Fairview corridors. Scroll wheel's too fast. So we are applying right now for a low, no emissions vehicle grant through the FTA. It is for 8 electric buses. 6 of those would be replacement vehicles, but then the other 2 would be expanding our fleet, which would include service in Meridian. They are 35-foot buses that we're applying for. They're slow charge rather than fast, meaning they function more or less like a CNG or diesel bus does now, where it just fills up overnight in the yard, and we can be very flexible with how we route it and things like that. We don't need to have chargers on the route. Applications are due in May. We're currently throwing them together at warp speed. Should get a response before the end of the fiscal year. Then the actual building of the bus and getting in the queue with Proterra to construct them takes 1.5 to 2 years. So right now we are updating our stakeholders, you guys, the cities. We're going to start going out to private sector interests in the next couple weeks, coordinating a little more in depth with the city of Boise and CWI, seeing what we can come up with there. Then May, as part of our May in Motion campaign, we're hoping to coordinate that as well and have an open house here or somewhere downtown Meridian, I think, to discuss with the public what they would like to see, what their thoughts on our current routing plans are, if there are other things we should be considering. And then June, July, go back to city council and have a more formal discussion with them about getting it into the budget for the next couple of years. Again, scroll wheel's too fast. So once we've gone to the public, come back to city council, got into the budget, made sure it's really actually going to happen, we'll finalize the routing and the frequency, time of day, things like that, and then figure out exactly where the stops are going to go, actually put them in ahead of time. New vehicles should be here next summer, or I guess summer after that, 2021, and then actually launching the service as soon as we can after that. That's all I got. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Parker, commissioners?
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
That's interesting to see some of those plans and new buses
Yeah.
and expanding the services. Thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Parker.
Thank you.
Come back again, or come back for another presentation. Okay, 5B, staff communications, item 5C.
We're just flying through this.
So, Mr. Chair, item 5C begins on page 21 of your packet. One of the things that just came across my email today, and I thought I'd share it with you because it's more timely than putting in your packet for next month, but I did get notice today from Miranda Carson. She has put in her resignation with the school district and is moving to Florida. So I don't think you'll see her anymore. I don't recall that she actually put in that email when her last day with the school district is, but it certainly will be before your next meeting next month. So I just wanted to let you all know that there'll probably be a lag time then before we get someone reassigned to the Transportation Commission. So I will reach out to the school district here and just make sure we're on their radar as they look to backfill her position. But anyways, she just notified me today that she's no longer going to be with the school district. So, and then some updates there on, again, some older business items that we've been hearing about for several months regarding no parking signs and some of the issues with traffic trash and trespass there with Paramount and Rocky Mountain High School. We do intend to have another meeting here this month sometime with the neighbors to see, as you can see in this update, Digline was out there, and I have to assume at this point that the signs are actually up and installed. So we'll let them see how well they work here for a couple of weeks after kids get back in school after spring break, and then reconvene to see if any next steps are necessary out there or how effective these are. I just want to get a little bit of an update there. And then also, I can't remember if it was last month or 2 months ago now, but we had the principal from St. Ignatius attend. I forwarded on an email chain. It's also just in this packet as well. Had a couple of responses back from you all, but I did reach out to Sean and asked him just to pull some new pedestrian counts there on Meridian Road, just south of Chinden, basically to see what kind of numbers. I don't know if they've had a chance to do that. That was just within the past couple of weeks, and it's been spring break, so I don't imagine, yeah, he's shaking his head no. But anyway, so that should be, we'll have some more information on that at a future date. I think the long and short of that was that the private school was put on notice back when they were going through the permitting process that, hey, if this is an issue, you should bear some of the cost, some if not all of the costs of putting in a pedestrian signal or whatever that treatment may be back at the time. So you all have that chain from their history anyways. Let's see, was there one more? Oh, and then, yeah, we're looking at, so on page 26 and 27, again, this one's kind of an outstanding one, although there's a new twist in it, if you will. Bellata Court up in Spurwing. There's a, Bellata Court is a cul-de-sac public street that's connected in with Spurwing Greens, and there's an emergency road and a gate that connects in so Spurwing Green residents can get to the amenities in Spurwing, the club and those types of things. There's been another development approved just south of them there, and some fencing has been put in that has caused some concerns with a safety concern. It doesn't violate, ACHD's been out there, and it doesn't violate any of their ordinances for Vision Triangle or anything like that. Police department has been out there. Again, technically it seems to comply, but everyone seems to say it could be done better. So we're still looking into this to see what kind of recourse may be there, or working with the developer to bring that fence back just a little bit so the line of sight is a little more improved at that intersection. So I just wanted to let you know we're looking into that. I don't think that will come before you. I'm hoping just at the staff level we can, again, kind of bring that to resolution with the developer and get some modifications to that wall fence that's there. I think that's what we have in the packet as far as communications that were relevant since the last meeting, but I will stand for any questions you have on those.
Mr. Hood, on that wall fence there at Bellata Court, that's inside the Meridian city limits. I'm assuming that there was an application for a permit to install a wall fence?
So, Mr. Chair, it's a little quirk in our code that does not require a fence permit when done in conjunction with the building permit. So you don't have to pull a separate fence permit when you're building a principal structure.
Okay.
So there was no fence permit issued. It was just constructed as with part of the actual single-family home that's adjacent to that lot. It wasn't, the way it's constructed currently was not the way it was approved through the public hearing process. So some liberties were taken, if you will, to extend that fence further down towards this intersection that wasn't consistent with the landscape and fencing plan that was submitted. So no, a permit wasn't pulled, but it wasn't necessary either. But what was installed wasn't exactly installed to the way it should have been installed. So that's again what we're trying to kind of figure out is how do we get them to modify that, or what sort of recourse do we have to get them to pull that back just a little bit so it doesn't create such the safety hazard. If that makes sense. I know it's a little convoluted.
I understand. So there's actually well, an agency or a department or an office looking at a compliance issue, and so
My department is looking into the compliance, because again, it does not comply with what was approved by the mayor and council on the landscaping and fencing plan. Something different.
okay. So we'll stay tuned for any involvement.
And that was just more of if we can't bring some resolution and neighbors still are having these concerns, you may see someone approach, but we hope to get this just resolved without having to come before you. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Hood. Any follow-up for Mr. Hood on staff communications? Hearing none, it looks like item 5C is closed for today's meeting. Item 6, future meeting topics. Conversation, comments? Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I do have a topic that I'd like to talk about at a future meeting. The topic of electronic billboards. And I recall back in the previous incarnation of this commission, the Traffic Safety Committee, that topic came up once, but I don't recall whatever became of it. But the reason I ask is I see electronic billboards up all over Meridian, and I know on state highways there are rules for the duration and the frequency that the messages can change, whether they can be have animation and that kind of thing. But I don't know what the rules are on city streets, or ACHD streets rather, because I see so I see in Meridian signs that are changing very, very quickly, in my opinion. Like after 2 to 3 seconds, I've seen signs with animation, and I find them distracting and annoying as a driver. So I'd like to bring that up as a future topic.
What, Mr. Martin, is there some materials that you could direct us to?
It probably helps if there was concerns to bring in the signs, the individual signs forward, because a lot of them depends if the signs are in our right-of-way or not, because a lot of those signs typically are outside of our right-of-way. Yeah. Then I do believe they would fall under any City of Meridian ordinances. If they are in our right-of-way, then they would usually be covered by a license agreement.
Okay.
So that's why it kind of depends on the sign and where they're located.
Okay, I understand. No, I was looking at some background material, so, Mr. Lewis, any ideas on how we might educate ourselves or bring us up to speed, or?
Well, go ahead.
Excuse me?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so this is in Meridian City Code, especially when the signs are on private property. So we do permit those, and there are regulations for the copy and how colors, how quickly it can change copy, flashing. It's not supposed to dazzle drivers. There's language, so we can do that. I can probably bring somebody from my office that's a little more versed in it than I am to present just what's on the books now. and let you know, what it is with brightness and those types of things, so you at least have a baseline understanding of what. Just to clarify, and I think I understand, billboards, when we say billboards, that typically is bigger, but these can be smaller signs too. It's
Right.
really more about, it sounds like the flashing and the colors and the distraction that they are, not so much the size. Because in Meridian, we don't allow electric billboards, but that again is a definition. We do allow electronic signs, reader boards and those types of things, but we do have text in our code that again limits the size of the copy and how quickly it can flash and things. So I think we'll start there if that's all right, and just we'll go from there and explain what the code is currently for signage that way, and then see maybe what the concerns are, again, if it's with the brightness or with the flashing or with the rate at which text scrolls or whatever. So, but that is in our side ordinance, so if you want to do that research on your own, it's in Title 11. I can't remember the subsection that sign codes it in, but it's Meridian City Code Title 11.
Okay, so Mr. Hood, if you say a member of your staff, a May, June meeting, or are we looking out farther than that?
No, I think that's something, Mr. Chair, that, yeah, May, we could target May for sure and see what else may arise on the agenda. This, would have been a good one for today, since it looks like we'll be done a little early. But yeah, May, June, I think is definitely doable.
Okay,
Do what I can.
that work, Mr. Lewis?
Yes, thank you very much. That'd be great.
That's a good topic.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Leslie?
So I don't know how many people here know, but in 2003, Compass had a study done for commuter rail, basically, from Caldwell to Boise, and I think it went nowhere. So I was wondering if we could maybe at a future meeting put passenger rail service discussion, see where it stands with the various cities that are impacted by it, because I haven't heard anything in years and years, and I was just, I hate for us to get left behind the times, because we're going to be over 1 million people in the Treasure Valley real quick here, and I-84 is going to get congested once again. So just want to know where the cities stand. Just kind of wanted an update on it in general.
Ms. Tisdale?
Yes, sir, I can give a brief update. We are still continuing to look at how a passenger rail service would work in our long-range plan. The biggest drawback to going to the next step in this is funding. We are one of 2 states that doesn't have public transportation funding that is a local option tax or something like that comes in to help pay the match. In order to move forward with additional route planning and how to build the project, you have to show that you have operating expenses and capital expenses before you can get a federal grant to build it. And we don't have that right now. So we're trying to figure out exactly how much it's going to cost, what those steps are going to be, and how we could possibly come up with the money to do it. But yeah, I can bring links to the older information that we have. But we're looking at like I don't know, do you have the amount? It's something like $1.5 billion to build it.
Billion?
Bah.
With a B?
With a B.
So is that light rail or is that commuter rail?
I believe it's commuter rail, light
So
rail.
piggybacking off UPs, 1.5 billion, because it was
That was
130
rough
million.
cost estimate at one time. For operating, that includes operating, because you have to have operating to move forward.
Okay.
So, but we are looking at these, and I throw that number out there. I probably shouldn't do that. But we are looking at what the actual costs could be and how would we get there. And that's something we're continually working on.
Okay. So if possible, maybe if you could put something like formal together or something with numbers and.
We actually have Rachel Halika here, and she's doing our public transportation planning, so we can get her to put something together for you.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Tisdale, there seems to be something in the back of my mind. If there's any legislative committees, why am I thinking that there is someone besides your group that's looking at that issue? Mr. Parker?
Mr. Chair, yeah, in Valley Connect 2.0, we discussed being prepared for the time that rail comes and having a quality fixed route network in place so that when we get to the point that densities and funding and things like that all fall into place, that we have rail available.
Okay.
It's ready to go.
Is that what you were thinking, was Valley Regional Transit's plan?
I'm thinking somewhere with the coffee with the legislators that there's been a comment or somewhere along, let me follow up
Okay.
with the Government Affairs Committee. I sit on Meridian Chamber.
Let me know, and then I can find the document you're looking for or the reference you're looking for.
Okay,
if
all
you
right,
have that.
so you volunteered Rachel to,
I did.
so like May, June, I don't know what her work schedule is, or July? Okay.
June or July, is that doable?
Mr. Leslie?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, two good ideas. Thank you. I appreciate that. And you were voluntold, Rachel, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Hood?
I just thought of something that maybe to get you all thinking about. September isn't too far off. It'll be here before we know it. And kind of historically, we've gone on a little field trip. So if you have any place that makes sense to do, since we won't be meeting that Labor Day, but we typically meet the second Monday of the month. If there's some place that makes some sense, let me know, or we could simply cancel the September meeting as well. But I'd need to coordinate that with if we're going to do a field trip. So if you have any ideas, you shoot them out to me now, or think about it. And but like I said, that'll be coming up here before we know it. So.
Mr. Lancaster, is there a field trip that, I can see some wheels turning. But, okay.
There's nothing exciting to see there.
Well, I enjoyed the visit to the district office one day, but it was kind of an esoteric point, but, okay. Very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
what is the rail with trail alignment?
okay.
What is that, Caleb?
I'm sorry.
Alignment? The rail with trail alignment?
Yeah, so that came up last month or the month before, I can't remember. And so I'll have Parks come at one of our upcoming meetings to just discuss north side, south side. I think I mentioned even here downtown, the idea it's gonna go out of corridor for a minute and use Broadway to avoid some of the spurs that are right here in downtown, and so it'll go off network. So we've looked at the entire corridor, and we have some exhibits that we can kind of piece together and show you from a planning level what side of the tracks, and again, it because of irrigation and other encumbrances and spurs and things, it kind of jumps back and forth from being on the north side to the south side and downtown and at Eagle Road and how you'd cross and those types of things. So that's what that, I don't remember if that was last month or a couple months ago, but we'll get Parks and talk about that alignment here in the near future.
Very good. Anything else? Okay. That brings us to item 7, our next meeting, a month, May 6th. Unless there is another topic, always have left it open to discuss if there's something else on our minds. Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Very good. Sounds like we're done. See you on May 6th.
That way.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that was record time, I think. Magical.